Alright. We'll slow things down a little bit just to let more people come in, but... What's up, Kruger? Kruger? I don't know how to say your name correctly. Yeah, there's some strong Juhani vibes here. So, I was originally only planning to do this for, like, major meta-shifting kit releases, but honestly, A, I find it really fun, and B, those only come, like, twice a year now. So yeah, I figured this might be... I don't know, honestly, I was just really excited about these characters, too. And some of that excitement is still justified, some of that maybe less so. I'm still trying to figure out how I want to format this exactly. It's a very weird thing to do live. What's up, so what? Alright, this is the current solution that I have for now, for just kind of a trimmed Photoshop. Because I definitely want to do some write-ons. So yeah, we're starting off with Cara Dune's kit. I was the most curious about her, and I would say I'm the most let down. So I'm not really going to do this as a kit reading. There are already plenty of those. We can read the kits ourselves, it's fine. I'm just going to attack these kits from just like, is there anything that I see that looks strong? Is there anything we can abuse? Is this kit relevant to the current meta? And for Cara Dune, I'm looking at this with a hard no. And I'm not saying this to be a Debbie Downer, but so here's what we're looking at here. Oh, we don't really need to see light side tank rebel scoundrel. There's not a whole lot of text, and that isn't to say that a kit has to have a lot of text to be good. But the problem is they were going for something. I would say it's ambitious. It's something that we don't really have in the game yet. She's supposed to be a multi-class role. But they tried to do that with, you know, this is a pretty small kit that for the typical size of a kit in the game now, and most of this text doesn't matter. Right off the bat, this basic is potentially the worst basic in the game that I've seen if you're running her plug and play. All that we're seeing here, if you like, this is all just establishing, is she a tank or is she a rebel? And my other issue with this is you don't see damage dealers who just do damage, and you don't see tanks who just taunt anymore. There's usually more in line with that for modern tank releases. And that's not to say, like, taunting on basic, that reminds me a lot of, you know, Geonosian Brute from Brute Alpha or Magna Guard. This can be good with a lot of counter chance in play, but if you just boil this text down to this is basically all we're seeing. Is, let's just say, block this out. We're only doing damage, right? This will determine the role, sure, but once you've already done that, like, you've already done that in the team select. So once you're in gameplay, you're already done with that. In this first special, there's some stuff I do like here, and there's some stuff I don't. She gains potency up, we'll get to that, that's slightly relevant later. The big thing that I gravitate towards here is, this is a 2 cooldown, which, very big Biggs energy, I would say there. It's a 2 cooldown with 50% turn meter removal. If there was something in her kit that I would say looks appealing, sounds appealing, you could potentially build around, it's this. She's kind of competing with Old Ben here, but Old Ben's Mind Tricks has a massive cooldown. So this gives you more consistent turn meter control than the Rebels have really had in the past. What's up, Rongo? What's up, Stash? This, if there was some way to use her, you know, we have CLS lead giving turn meter gains plus CLS Zeta giving you extra, or unique Zeta as well. You can play with this a little bit. Like, if you get the 3PO triple translation on her, you could try to build some sort of lockdown loop with this. This is the only tool she has in her entire kit that feels strong. And just as well, Empire just isn't really relevant right now. That's not to say that they're bad, but they are low on the tier list, so I'm cutting this text out as well. I don't think it really gets a mention. So we have AoE damage with 50% turn meter removal. It's kind of a NES competitor, and honestly, looking at both the basic and the special, the one thing that I'm a little bit uncomfortable with doing these immediately is we don't have numbers. We don't have ability ratios, we don't have base offense pools, and we don't have speed. So for all we know, she could be, like a 170 base speed Nest competitor who can hit you with the removal right out of the gate. And that is a defined niche that, again, kind of competing with Old Ben, especially being a tank with Terminator removal. She's extremely competing with Old Ben, but it's hard to say. If she's slow, then it's going to be extremely hard. Like, you could maybe try to stack Old Ben plus Cara and just do some crazy constant Terminator lockdown, but yeah. And it's also worth noting, Old Ben's cooldowns might be long, but he's got the Terminator gain Zeta. And as we'll get to with the uniques, she's not working with much here. At least not much in a way that I think is impactful. This unique, so this is kind of where we're starting to get into the Juhani territory. And this actually made me really happy. When Juhani came out, I thought that I could see what they were going for with her, but they just played it too safe in a lot of ways. And she just didn't have it where it counted. And one of the biggest gripes that I had with Juhani is when she went into stealth, she gained damage buffs and not stats. And Jedi were already pretty notorious for being able to buff them as much as they could, or buff themselves as much as they wanted. And we're starting to see a shift away from that. So this actually makes me really happy. I'm plus 100% critical chance is hard to be happy about in current age, since you're kind of competing against relics, and relics already boost your critical chance to a huge degree. And we do see that she's dealing physical damage, so regardless of what her, her role specialization, or if she's physical or agility, she's probably strength tank. But regardless of that, that makes this matter a lot less. Right? Both are dealing physical. Plus 50% critical damage. You can't hate it, but again, it's really hard to feel good or bad about that until we know how much her damage ratios are going to be. And based on what we're seeing here, Cara... Is it Cara Dune or Cara? Cara is going to be extremely number reliant if she's going to work. There's two angles that I see in her right now. She's either going to have to be just a huge stat stick, just hits hard to kill, which isn't exactly the most exciting, but it gives her a usage. Or we're going to need Mandalorian to do something that helps spice her up a bit. So one other thing I want to note with this unique is this. This is actually, I think, a downgrade from Juhani. When you lose taunt, you don't immediately go into stealth. You have to take a turn, which to me, if they are just trying to go for the window, because if you lose taunt, you probably just got dispelled. That's also a window where you don't have potency up. That is the time where you would want stealth the most. And we'll get to the potency up thing in a second. There isn't a whole lot of potency up in this game. Actually, let's just skip to it. The other biggest problem that I have is they tried to hedge her from being a... They didn't want to just copy Scarif Rebel Pathfinder, I feel like. But they chose possibly the strangest buff they could have to do this. And it makes this mechanic really suck, in my opinion, compared to what it could be. So I'm just going to look at Cara Dune from a tank, specifically because she has a tank tag. This matters because a lot of new characters, especially when they're coming out, when you see them, you're immediately looking at them from what can Watt do for them, right? So typically with a tank to have good synergy with Watt now, you want self-cleanse, you want Terminator gain, you want protection gain would be good. And in this case, it would have been nice to, like, she could have had some fun interplay with Watt if the moment her protection dropped, her taunt drops, she's immediately stealth, it's fine. We see the Terminator gain here whenever an enemy is defeated. Again, I'm just getting rid of the Empire text. Don't even... It's possible, apparently they said new Empire Strikes Back content coming soon, but just as a general kit, Empire isn't an issue. So you're getting 50% Terminator. That's not a bad amount if you're pairing her with Watt, but there's no real method of self-cleanse. Her potency up is only 2 turns, or 1 turn on a 2-turn cooldown, so there's going to be 1 turn on, 1 turn off, basically constantly juggling back and forth. I was actually really disappointed too. CG's written kit for Jin Urso, if we assume that they wanted her to run with Rebels, this potency up got a little bit of false advertising. I looked at Jin's kit, and the kit description actually does say that Jin grants potency up to people. That's not the case. She only grants the actual potency stat, which is a really weird mistake to make. But so the only characters that can actually functionally work with this are Kit Fisto, which we're taking a real nice, that's a real strong initial plug. Grandmaster Yoda actually technically can. And I think there was one more. But none of the people on this list, like Grandmaster Yoda is a good character, but he's not a good character that you're going to want to take out for a plug and play to turn. Like, you could use Scarab Rebel Pathfinder so much more successfully and so much more simply. You know, you plug him with any character that gives him a buff, he's going to work with it. It just feels like she's picky in a way that feels really odd. And I don't like, it's good for a tank to have critical hit immunity, but actually let's... Doing this when an enemy is defeated, there's a phenomenon in a card game that's called win harder, right? Which is, the hardest part of the game is when you're in the 5v5 typically. Some matchups play differently, Grievous especially, but for Rebels, you're either getting a kill straight off the bat or you already have control. This feels like the wrong point in time to get critical hit immunity. She doesn't have a pre-taunt. She can get her pre-taunt with Watt Piece, but there isn't a whole lot of synergy there. Or at least she's gonna force a very aggressive playstyle with Watt, so like, this isn't gonna work with like CLS Watt Rebels against Gas. Unless you try to like get her guarded specifically, like that could maybe work. Personally speaking, I think I would have felt a lot better about this if her AoE was a Dispel. That is kind of redundant with Chewie, for sure. But this, having a Dispel would have felt... Oh, right, sorry. The special, not the unique. If the special had a Dispel, it didn't even have to be an avoidable Dispel. That's actually something that the Rebels don't have either. They have Baze and Chewie both as Dispels that are negated by Foresight. That would have given her a special niche that I think would have made her more usable as a Rebel. But other than that, I just don't feel wowed by her. Wait and see, like check her physical ratios, check her offense, check her defense, check her health and protection pools. I'm redacting this kit. Look, man, unless Empire gets a rework soon, this is straight up not a thing. Like, all the text that I removed is just, like, why? Right? Like, how much have you had to, like, you might fight, like, a Palpatine Vader with good speed or something on defense, but, like, Rebels already stomped them. I know you're joking. It's just, like, in a word where CG chose to mince words and, like, keep it short, they added so much stuff that's just, like, why are you here? Like, this basic could have, all of this text about, like, taunting or stealthing could have been in the unique. Like, this basic is such a non-basic that, I don't know, it's just frustrating. And, like, to make things worse, if we're just, like, so, counterattack retaunters, I do think is a cool niche. It's a strong niche. It opens up certain counterplay. I like it. But you're either relying on Greef Karga, which I don't even know if he's going to flex into Rebels that well, to give her retribution, or you're relying on CLS lead, which I believe CLS lead is only 35% counter chance. So that makes her the worst counter-attacking retaunt that we have. Brute is 100% chance. So like that's not new ground that CG could break. We already have that. And then Magna Guard has a 70% counter chance. This is just rough. And the character model looks amazing. I'm not trying to completely, you know, crap on their work, but I'm not sure I see a use for them. Like, maybe if you're stealing tools from CLS for other teams, this opens things up. Like, she could compete for the 3PO slot. Again, like, double tank, 3PO Old Ben, plus CLS Core Trio, CLS Han Chewie. That could work. Especially R2's in high demand in other places for me now, too. Like, that could be the role that they're trying to place her in, but unless she's cranking out damage or unless she is a brick, and even if she is a brick, honestly, I just don't see it. Again, it's kind of lame. Sucks to say, but this was a miss for me. Alright. Jumping on over to Greef Karga, where the mood lightens a lot, I would say. So, this character, I think, is largely a hit. Is largely very cool, and I think opens up some not fully abusable issues, but it makes the bounty hunter setup on offense a lot cooler. So the thing I want to jump to first and foremost is the cooldown reset on the first unique. So the way that this works is you could pitch Greef Karga. This was already known. I'm not the person to make this up, but so you could run Django lead with Bosk, Zam Wessel, an AoE damage dealer, probably Dengar or Boba, and then flex in Greef Karga here. The whole idea is that this team, if you set the turn order right, I believe it's Bosk Taunt, Django, or Bosk Taunt, Zamdet, Bosk Mass Assist, Bosk goes again, or no, Zam goes again. It's basically, this is horrible to talk about in audio with no visuals. You can stack it to potentially get the immediate Django lead payout activation, and it's not a closed loop, like you're not gaining turn meter in the process of doing that, but this means that you're basically blowing everything in that process to earn that payout. This gives you a hard reset. This is actually pretty sick for them. You're not going to have a turn meter source necessarily to bump them back up to full. If you were able to somehow pack that in together and do that in 4 turns, then we actually do have a way to close that loop slightly here. Not all the way, slightly. By getting 50% turn meter. But this move is already insane enough that I don't even know if you would want to load that all up front. The lead is... It might be the worst lead that we've gotten in ages. The lead is basically Bosk lead divided by 2 and even less. Like, there's no tenacity, it's almost half protection. The contract might actually be a little bit harder too. 28 times attacking out a turn is... Like, you have Bosk Mass Assist, you have some Dengar RNG, he has a Mass Assist. His Mass Assist and Bosk gets you half. And from there, you're kind of in a rough spot. And especially since it's only Bounty Hunters contributing, like, you could try to flexing Kira, try to get Kira calling, like, Dengar to maybe get 2. I don't know, man. That's such a stretch. The other thing that I have a hard time condemning this all the way, but the thing I want to draw attention to is this. We have some of the fattest cooldowns in the game. There's 2 cooldown mechanics in the kit, but there's 2 issues that I see here. So 6 cooldown, 5 cooldown is insane. And obviously we just saw, the way I'm interpreting this unique is it says each time any bounty hunter earns their payout, your cooldowns are reduced by 1. And that I can think of right now, there's no way for bounty hunters to earn their payout off sync. So it's just going to be, you finish the contract, all of them sweep on, and it's just going to be -5 cooldowns to everyone. So I'm guessing that's why they chose this number. But once, that basically means that you're on a timer, right? You get, let's call it 4 turns. You get cooldown 1, which if you get this fast Django setup with him, you're not even getting full value on that cooldown reduction. You're probably going to have used 1. Bosk will get full value, Django... Every character should only... I mean, Zam will get good value. But, like, Django, Boba / Dengar, and Greef should only have used 1 special. So you're already kind of back in the hole. You get 2 more casts of each, which I think they're kind of going for this being kind of like a close out the game. Like, that's every damage buff in existence. But my issue is, when they chose cooldown numbers that big, like, they chose cooldown numbers that would already get cycled, and then they gave him another cooldown cycle, but this feels very self-defeating. So He cycles cooldowns when he gets a debuff. Okay. That's fine. He automatically stealths himself when he has the payout. Yeah, stealth for 1 turn at the end of each of his turns. So the man has to be hit by an AoE Dispel first. And then he will start cycling. And if you build him for speed, that's not a big window. Which, that feels frustrating. And also, by the way, already stealth for 2 turns at the start of the encounter. You don't even have to take your second turn to get that. He's already going to be in stealth. It feels clunky. I feel like they chose this number to make this effect seem cooler. But this was already a cool effect. I don't feel like this needed, or I don't feel like this required this to exist, right? It's not a repeatable effect. It's not like you can repeat your contracts to get the same effect. If that was the case, I could kind of, like, that would be kind of a gameplay loop, right? Is, all right, we got the reset. Let's get to work on getting it again. That's something. But this just feels like, it almost kind of reminds me of how New Ray feels now. So with New Ray, if your team doesn't have a healer on it, so she chunks herself down in portions to 25%, right? She falls below 50% health. She heals herself for 50% once. And you want to keep on juggling yourself above and below 60%, right? After her lead heals herself once, if you keep spamming that shield, you're basically in the hole. And she doesn't lifesteal enough, at least in any build that I've run so far, to dig herself out of that hole. This is almost the exact same vibes I'm getting from that Ray kit, of you get one built-in mulligan, and then you straight up just don't have buttons anymore. You're just stuck on basic, which I hope this doesn't continue to be a pattern. I don't think it's a very fun pattern. And like, so his basic isn't bad, right? Just talking about what he's doing for the team, this is the first true bounty hunter support. Someone pointed out, Cadman has a support tag. That's fine. That's not, he's not a support. This is the first actual true support we have, and as the support class, this is actually probably the craziest support ability we've gotten in this game. It is the most support ability we've had in the game, in every sense of the word. This is basically Rex Cleanse combined with, God, I didn't even know how to do a meets for this. You get 50% health, 50% protection, 50% turn meter, cleanse, tenacity up. It's like he's like Hermit Yoda meets Rex meets so much. It's just a lot to work with. I do think that if you're struggling to get payout, I don't know that he's actually going to have that much value. It's not bad. Like, a mass assist is always a mass assist, right? And bounty hunters like their mass assist a little bit more than most factions, just because Dengar can get you extra value. It's a little bit weird to have Dispel all buffs and then mass assist. This feels a little bit clunky. At least it will help you get something like a crit immunity or a tenacity off. Like if you're running, let's say, boss bleed, that gets you a little bit more value. I don't think it really does anything for Django, except maybe help get the kill. But yeah, I could be wrong. I think this is the first instance of Daze. That's going to be a great tool to add to a boss mass assist. It's weird. Like, there's slight value to say that he has with Embo, protection regen helps. I think it's just a good generic kit. A lot of good healing. The biggest thing that jumped out to me is the possibility of a fast Django lead boss setup. But beyond that, like, the lead is such a non-thing. Yeah, it's weird to say. I mean, we could call this out. 50% crit avoidance. You know, B1 was the first character to kind of introduce that. That's a really good number. That's 85% with crit avoidance arrow. That is definitely something you could build around. But I'm not sure that really... Like, he's such a stealth-oriented character, and like, he's very Hermit Yoda-esque in that respect. I don't know that you're really that worried about him getting hit, and the counter chance feels a little bit off because of that as well, right? It's possible he's a really slow character, which would kind of make it make more sense. I do think they did a good job of making the kit feel like how the character works in the story. The idea of him dipping out, disappearing, coming back. ideally with abilities. Like, that feels kind of nice, and we've needed some more characters like Hermit Yoda for a while. It's just, I don't think it breaks the game anyway, I guess is the way I put it. This will be nice to have. I think he should work excellently at 3-star. I'm assuming these characters are marquee. I guess we don't know. Or they might have said. Like, the value proposition here for him is very easy. For me, I use Bosk in other places sometimes, so he is potentially acting as a Bosk replacement. I don't know if this exactly gets that for me. At least working with a Gear 12 Bounty Hunter team. I'm not sure if this really changes the outcome of any matchups, aside from just it gives you a little bit more oomph out the gate. The Mass Assist is nice. You could definitely play around with Bosk double taps, or double Mass Assists back to back. Like, that's definitely not bad. But the weird thing to think about it is you're only... So Django's contract is you have to hit debuffed enemies. The Mass Assist, which I don't think the Mass Assist actually does damage, right? Just dispel, no mention of damage, call all other bounty hunters to assist. So this is like, let's call it like a Newt second special. If you're just talking about like pure contract progress, you're competing with Boba AoE or Dengar AoE. So if you weave him later in the turn order, at most you're working, or at minimum you're working with 4 hits. If Boba lands a double hit, and Django should double hit at this point, they should be debuffed. You potentially gain 1 extra contract progress, but I don't know that that really changes anything. He maybe opens up a character for another team, but like, I'm not sure that either of those characters really needed to be freed up. You're disappointed there's no Mark on his first special? I don't think that they're going to play... I don't think they're going to hand out Mark willy-nilly. The more I think about it, I actually think I understand why you feel that way, because it kind of like him dishing out the target. It's hard to say. Like, it would have been interesting if his unique had some sort of mechanic where like a side contract could pop up. Because that was kind of his thing, right? He was the guy bringing you the jobs. But I don't know if they were trying to play more off of him later in the show or what. I think he's plenty usable. I don't know that he really pushes bounty hunters up in strength. A Mass Assist, especially if you've got... I mean, even just Gear 13, but I was going to say mid to high Relic, Django Boba. This is a lot more damage up front. So I think this might open some matchups. Like, maybe this might warrant a... I was going to say the Darth Revan revisit, but I mean, ever since Malik rolled around, that potential fear threat on AoE really kind of wrecks the shop. This helps aggro bounty hunters a lot more, but there's so many safety parachutes in A-tier teams right now, right? Like, Padme, Mass Assist doesn't matter. JKR, maybe you could, like, pop Savior and then take the Savior back down again, pretty much immediately. That's kind of something. But this is all assuming he's fast, too. Django gives you 30 speed, but generally speaking, you need to pack those speeds back-to-back if you're trying to take on steeper teams, right? If you're just throwing your bounty hunters at whatever BC team, like, yeah, they'll be fine. But... yeah, character comes strong out of the gate, and if you have your team built to grab the contract quickly, I think he'll help close out a match very quickly, but I have huge concerns about his longevity in a fight. They just built him into a very weird corner. Like, he practically demands, like, he needs to fight a B2 in order for his unique or his payout to actually get you value. It's really bizarre. Or, like, I guess you could maybe... like, he wants to hit Scion or something. He wants to hit somebody who can debuff him without actually having to be hit. It's really bizarre. I mean, maybe that Fear might actually be... like, Fear and Pain might be something they were going for with this. But again, if you get hit with Fear on it, it kills... it completely kills the point. I don't know, man. It's... And also, like, the only play he can hit is a special, so he's only doing that on assist or when his stuff is cooldown. I don't think any of these characters break the game. I would say wait for Mandalorian Kit. Mandalorian Kit might make them make more sense, especially looking at Cara. Like, if Mandalorian's Kit has some sort of cooldown juggling mechanic so that Cara can turn this into spammable 50% turn rate gain, then we have something. That's definitely, obviously, really strong. Greef is fine. Greef will work. I don't know if Greef is a must-have. I might work on Greef personally, but if I do, it would just be like a 3-star Gear 11. Yeah, we'll see. I'm happy these characters exist. Like, they don't make the game worse, but just they don't exactly knock our socks off yet. We'll see. Definitely keep an eye out. Check SCOGH.gg tomorrow for when Cara's kit comes out. We will desperately need to see what she's working with. The picture shows her having pretty good biceps, but until we see the damage numbers to prove it, I dub her officially as New Juhani, or as I would prefer, Nuhani. Pains me to say it, I was really curious on, we haven't really had that many characters added that weren't huge releases, so I was really hoping for something to shake things up. I don't know that we really have that here. At least, not the way you'd like. Nothing broken. It doesn't even have to be broken, just nothing that crazy strong. So yeah, this is the first official one of these. I should be doing this again for Mandalorian. I haven't really been looking at his chat much. Let's go back to that. Interesting that it's -1 turn for each bounty hunter payout act. Yeah, I mean, so generally the way bounty hunters have worked, unless you were doing something like Nest Opener to try to get some initial debuffs for Django lead, like, it was already pretty hard to push past 4. You could make 4 work and still be within reach of the contract, but generally speaking, it's hard to push beyond that. But also, like, you could argue that the 4 cooldown actually does open up something interesting, and that, like, it actually does force him to use this special, and then this should be back up. So I think that is potentially a good call. It makes him harder to run a plug and play, or at least, like, you're not gonna mass assist, gate contract, then immediately be converted, right? I'm assuming that if you get this, you get a plus 30% damage, everyone gets the buff. This is going for the 3rd. Also, actually, I'm undeleting because I do want to point this out, how depressing this was. This basic might actually be the first anti-plug-and-play mechanic we actually have in this game. Like, obviously you have factional stuff. Obviously you have, like, if everybody's first order, or if the leader is X faction. But this ability is so distinctly just, this ability doesn't exist if you don't do what we say, that it's kind of sad, man. Like, this needs to have, like, a 300% off. Like, this needs to be, like, Sith Trooper tier, first order Sith Trooper tier to matter. Any team recommendations with these characters? Cara Dune, I would say, if you're stealing 3BO from a CLS team and you're not using the, you're not using Chewie or Han elsewhere, you could maybe get some mileage out of CLS Han, Chewie, Old Ben, Cara. But we really, really need to see Cara's numbers before I tell you that they're worth using. Because that's the thing. You're asking me what team should she be used in, and I'm still not sold that she should be used. She might be hanging out in a backwater planet at the bottom of my roster if she can't prove herself soon. Greef, again, still haven't had time to test. The character's not out yet, but I think Django lead, Bosk, Greef Karga. Let's throw in, you're really competing between Dengar and Boba. And then, what did I say? Django, Bosk, Greef. Zam. Zam is the name that I'm forgetting. Zam is kind of key to getting the extra Django contracts because she can reset along with Bosk's resets. The whole goal of that team is to get a very swift contract completion and payout, which the team already could do. Again, that's not my idea. But to me, a character who rewards you harder for getting your payout and a team that can rush payout seems like the best value to work. So that's the one that comes to mind. I could probably build a graphic to try to show that the next type of stream like this. It's a really weird format to do. I didn't actually even do the stream. Yeah, Cara doesn't look great. She's gonna live and die by her now. Straight up. Honestly, my biggest issue with Rebels right now is they need to make up their minds on counterattack chance. They built CLS lead with counterattack chance so low, but then like CLS already had counterattacking built in on defense stance. Han already had a little bit of counter chance. I'm not sure why they won't just fully admit it being in their identity, because it's what Cara feels like she needs, right? Also, I said that Cara might rely on Karga. I don't know. Karga is so specifically bounty hunter ridden. This is actually going to be... This is always a good litmus test for the character. Go into his kit. Switch. Control F scoundrel. One result. Control F bounty hunter. All bounty hunter allies. Winner allies. All allies with payouts. So as close to bounty hunter ally as they could say without actually saying bounty hunter. Maybe that could mean that Mandalorian has a payout without... Or we know payout's active. I think that means payouts cashed in, right? So all bounty hunter, all bounty hunter, all bounty hunter. I'm a little bit surprised. I don't see Cara going with... Assuming that Mandalorian is a bounty hunter, I don't see her going with them at all. Unless Mandalorian has to have some type of bridging mechanic, right? Like something that just says like other people can help us with the contract, which would actually kind of be thematic for the show, right? They were just kind of a ragtag group working with whatever. Cara does not. Cara is not even a bounty hunter. Cara is just a rebel scoundrel. Greef Dog. Greef's payout is very basic. Mostly all you need to know is he gets full heal when it happens and punches everybody in, and then you just get perma stealth, or not perma, but like 1 stealth per turn and cooldown cycle when he gets debuffed, which is extremely backwards. But yeah, just looking at this, like there isn't... I don't know how Cara is supposed to work with them. Like assuming that we don't know that we're getting like a full light side bounty hunter team, light side scoundrel team. Maybe they just wanted Cara to fit in with like a drill lead. That feels weird to me, right? I think you would be working towards a 5-man squad for the show. The show that legit contained a 5-man squad. It's weird. Let's see. Yeah, I think I should have focused more on actually marking down the dogs. Actually, okay. I'll need to do some more setup for next time. Okay. But the redactions kind of got the point across for her. Just talk through this one. Tapnel is actually exactly what I was expecting from her. It's either going to be that. I think that would be dope. Or it's going to be like some sort of Baby Yoda unlocking event. Which, like, I was thinking about this. They could do like an Ugnaught and IG-86 rework to be the other 2 characters, and then have like a 5-character event. That's such a contrived, forced thing. Like, I might do some light speculative farming on Ugnaught since he's in the Squad Arena store. It's cheap to do. I don't know that I believe in that happening. I agree. I think Baby Yoda could just be a summon. I think that would be perfectly fine. Fit the character pretty well. The character was basically pretty much always at his side. Like that. That would make the most thematic sense. But yeah, kind of just on hold for a week with these characters to see what the Mandalorian means for them. Yeah, it would be weird, right? If it was just like a pod or something. We'll see. Alright, I think I've said most everything there is to say. Yeah, a little bit of a shame about Cara. I was hopeful. I do think Mandalorian will still have potentially some more toys. I actually don't know if they said what his role is going to be. I assume it's hacker, because they said what his kit was going to be, and that was basically all. Gar Saxon? Gar? I actually can't speak due to spoilers. We'll see what CG does soon. Alright. Yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Let's see what happens. Check the Discord tomorrow. We're going to be... Guarantee you, we're going to be scouring the numbers. Either saying, wow, Cara actually turned it around, or griping about how bad she's going to be. I'll see you there.